Hi everybody, thank you so much for clicking on this video. I hope you're doing well. As the title suggests, this is going to be our top 5 British foods to try here in the UK.
We're still locked down at the moment, but we're hoping that it's going to be over really soon.
Yeah.
And we're just starting to plan everything that we want to do and everything there is to look forward to doing after lockdown.
Yeah.
One of those things, of course, is eating. So that's really what this video is about, isn't it?
Yeah, eating. But if you want to try British cuisine, these are the top 5 dishes that you cannot miss when you come here. So the first treat on this list is something called a Bakewell Tart. I mean, if you're not from the UK, you might not have heard of this, but it's absolutely delicious.
Amazing, yeah.
Yeah, it's like flaky pastry and then a layer of sieved jam, a layer of almond paste and sometimes almond flakes. It's absolutely delicious. The funny thing actually about this is it was created by accident. It was actually invented in the 1860s by a Mrs. Greaves because she asked her cook, didn't she?
To make a
Yeah, to make like a strawberry tart, and the cook absolutely messed it up. But it was such a hit with like everybody, all the customers, that it became really successful. And then Mrs. Wilson bought the recipe and that's now served, isn't it, in Bakewell.
Yeah, if you do go to Bakewell, I would really recommend going to the old Bakewell pudding shop, I think it's called.
Yeah.
And they have Bakewell tarts and Bakewell pudding. They're very similar but a little bit different.
Yeah.
So try both of them and choose your favourite. But
yeah.
They tell you the whole story and it's written on the menu.
Yeah.
It's a really lovely little cafe.
And that cafe that my sister's just mentioned, and that you've just seen the clips of, that's actually been baking to the same recipe since the 1860s, and it's actually housed in Mrs. Wilson's old cottage. So
yeah,
it's
definitely
such an amazing place to visit. So that is our recommendation for the first thing that you've got to try if you come to the UK, and that is a Bakewell Tart. Okay, so our second recommendation for must-try foods when you come to the UK is obviously afternoon tea.
Good old afternoon tea.
Yeah, this is one of our favourite little treats. It's traditionally eaten just after lunch, maybe about 2 o'clock. And the funny thing about this is it was introduced by Anna. She was the 7th Duchess of Bedford in 1840, and she was absolutely sick of eating super late. They used to eat at about 8 p.m. and she was sick of waiting for her evening meal, so she introduced like a sort of light snack in the mid-afternoon.
If anyone doesn't know what afternoon tea actually is, it's normally like dainty little sandwiches, and then you get like scones, clotted cream, jam, little pastries, and then tea of your choice.
Yeah. I would go for a typical like morning breakfast tea. That's what I would typically choose.
Quintessentially British.
Yeah. So that is afternoon tea for you. One of the ones that I could recommend actually,
the old original Bakewell pudding shop, I think.
That place there, they actually do an incredible afternoon tea, and they have loads of traditional fancies from the region, from Derbyshire. And they also have one Bakewell tart and also a Bakewell pudding that you can add to your afternoon tea. So it's really, really lovely.
Bakewell's also a really pretty place. So if you do want like a little day out rather than just going to like a hotel for afternoon tea, I think that's a nice place to visit. As
well as this clips that you're going to see now, this is the afternoon tea in Haworth, which was a little bit different. It was half slices of traditional cakes, and it was absolutely delicious. So every type of cake you can imagine, you could have it on this afternoon tea. So that's our recommendation. Number 2 is afternoon tea. So the third British treat, or the third dish that you have to try when you come to the UK, I mean, it needs no introduction, does it? It's fish and chips. Fish and chips is, I mean, it's a bit of a British institution, really. I think it was voted the national dish of Great Britain, so you can't really come here without trying it, can you? There are so many different places that you can try fish and chips. You can have it in a hotel, you can have it in a pub, you can have it in a typical fish and chip shop. We went to a place called, I think it was called the Bell Inn, and it was in the Cotswolds, and the fish and chips here were absolutely delicious. Like a fresh, flaky batter.
It was like a really crispy batter, really flaky fish inside. The chips were clearly home done, like really fluffy potato rather than like sometimes when it's like packet chips. And then you had fresh lemon to like squeeze all over your dish.
Exactly.
And nice, I think it was like mint mushy peas rather than just normal mushy peas. So it was a little bit different, but it was absolutely amazing.
It was super lovely. So Having fish and chips in a pub is one of my favourites, but I know my sister loves having it in a typical fish and chip shop. So if you are, I mean, I do as well. I honestly think there's no better fish and chips than in a typical, traditional, tiny little fish and chip shop in a seaside village. And two of the places that I can 100% recommend are Neptune's in Sea Houses, which is up in Northumberland, and also a place called The Mermaid, I think, in Barmouth, which is in Wales. Absolutely, you have to try fish and chips in a fish and chip shop if you do come to the UK. So the fourth dish, British dish that you have to try if you come to the UK is a full English breakfast. It's typically sausages, isn't it? Sausage, bacon, eggs, beans, often you get fried toast as well.
Possibly mushrooms and tomatoes.
Mushrooms, tomatoes, and also black or white pudding, which is kind of like a blood pudding. So traditional full English breakfast is something that if you are here in the UK, I would definitely recommend trying. At least once. So our fifth recommendation is something called a Sunday roast, which is my absolute favourite thing in the world. I love nothing more than going for a long walk in a park or out in the countryside and then finding a nice pub, you know, to like sit down and just find a cosy corner.
With a log fire.
Yeah, wooden beams, and just tuck into a nice Sunday roast. So that's my favourite thing to do ever. It tends to be either beef or lamb or chicken, like your protein, or a nut roast if you're vegetarian, and then you've got like veggies on the side, you've got your roast potatoes or mashed potatoes, you've got the pièce de résistance, which is the Yorkshire pudding, and obviously all the gravy. Drenching everything in gravy. One of the places that I can 100% recommend for a roast dinner is a place called Duncombe Arms in the Peak District. It's absolutely amazing. The food there is so fresh, it's locally sourced. 100% recommend the Duncombe Arms.
The Peak District is also a really beautiful place to like have a little walk around and really work up an appetite.
Yeah.
And food always tastes better when you're hungry.
Yeah.
So I would recommend making a day of it and just going out on a Sunday, having a lovely walk, and then going to a pub and getting your Sunday lunch.
So this fifth one, it's something that I absolutely think that you have to try if you come to the UK. It's Grasmere Gingerbread. So Grasmere Gingerbread is something that you can only get in Grasmere, I think. It's from a place called Sarah Nelson's, which is a tiny little shop. Have you been?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Grasmere's a little village in the Lake District.
Yeah.
And the shop's almost famous. Like every time you go there, there's always a queue.
Yeah.
And
there really is a queue.
Yeah, it's I can't describe it. It's like the gingerbread's a little bit spicy.
Yeah.
But it's also crunchy.
Crumbly,
while
crunchy,
also being
chewy. Yeah.
It's not like sometimes you'll get supermarket gingerbread that's a little bit dry.
Yeah.
It's just perfect. I would definitely recommend trying it if you're in Grasmere.
So if you do go to Grasmere, pop into William Wordsworth House, and the Grasmere Gingerbread shop isn't too far from there. So definitely worth it. I really hope that you've enjoyed our little 5 recommendations for foods that you have to try if you come to the UK. Hopefully we'll be out of lockdown soon and we'll be able to go out and explore and try all these delicious foods again. Until then, I hope you're staying safe, staying sane, and we will see you in the next video. Bye!
Darling, you